Hey, it's Tiff, and this is Tiff Off The Record. So pull up a chair, grab a cup of coffee, and let's talk about what's on my mind this week. So welcome to this new series that I am toiling with. Okay, we'll see how this goes. And I really wanted a space that it just felt like a Dear Diary entry. Like I was just catching you up, chatting with some good friends, letting you know what's on my mind. It's like we're at brunch. Okay. And we're just talking about catching up about what's been going on with me. So that's what I want this to be. And I'm hoping that this can be a series that we can continue, and it'll be a great place for my own diary entries, my own great place for me to even go back and see what was going on, what was in my head, what was weighing on me, what was I navigating in thoughts, because I plan to share all of that here. So let's get into me putting out the first post about my son. Let's talk about that first. My son, my 20-year-old son, asked for personal development for Christmas. So let me just catch you up. Since my son has been 5 years old, okay, he has always asked for and received gaming type of something with gaming for Christmas. That's always been what he asked for. And even as he's gotten older, I was kind of like, now, this is still on your request? Like, you don't have anything new that you want to talk about? And he didn't. Like, he always has just been a gamer. Now, once he moved out July of 2024. Okay, he moved out July of 2024. And since he's moved out, he is beginning to realize, okay, this life thing is a situation. And yes, sir, it is. It's rent, it's electricity, it's cable. Not cable. It's rent, it's electricity, it's water, it's all of the bills that come with being out on your own. And while we've helped, because he was, in his music program out in Nashville, he's still seeing what this is like having to pay all his bills. And I do believe that, and I'm going to just, okay, since this is just off the record, I can just give you my rants as they come to me. It doesn't have to necessarily be so organized and structured. But I do believe that there is this thing in young adults. Anytime I speak to a young adult, they say to me, I feel like I'm behind. Like that's just the number one thing that they say to me. They're like, man, Tiff, I feel like I'm behind. And I realize that that's impossible for you all to feel that way. So if you all feel that way, then obviously that is just the same just evil thing that you're telling yourself, and you're not holding every thought captive, nor are you vetting the truth of that. I'm gonna tell you why. So society has taught our young adults that you go to school at around 18 years old, you're going to graduate from high school. You should go to college. You should do 4 years there. You come out of college and you should find you a decent job. By that time, maybe you found the love of your life. You buy a house and you live out the rest of your life building out a family and working your business. And most of the time, acquiring so much debt that you are always going to work for the rest of your life. So first of all, if that's the measuring stick for what is considered behind, okay, let's just start there. But that is what they tell themselves. What they don't realize, okay, is that if death and life in the power of the tongue, and they that love will eat the fruit thereof, when you utilize the word I feel behind, that your body is going to have a physical reaction, a physical, psychological reaction, and it's going to tell yourself you're already in last place. You're already in last place. It'll tell yourself, you could try, but anything you do now is really to try to just at least not be a complete loser. You can give this a shot and hopefully you don't screw this up because everybody else is doing so much better than you. It's not a motivator. It doesn't really make you jump out of bed, right? When you already feel defeated and you already feel that you're at a disadvantage. And so a lot of young adults feel like they're behind. And it doesn't take long. The moment you graduate high school, if you don't immediately go to college, you're probably going to have that feeling. Even though who says that is just the perfect path that everybody has to go to? Like myself, who went to college and acquired all of the debt and was irresponsible. I wasn't even mature enough to be at college, nor was I interested in being at college. I only did it because they said that's what we should do. And I was terrible. Okay. Partying, kicking it, big kicking it. What's above big kicking it? Okay. That's what I was doing. And so wasting money. Okay. Just wasting money. So anyway, cut to, okay, got my rant out of the way. Cut to, my son is now at a music program. He found a music program in Nashville. He got there July of 2024, and he's just realizing that he wants more in life. And at that point, he probably did feel behind. I think he doesn't feel that way anymore. And so he says for Christmas, he asked me for a gaming device about October, November. Right? He's like, this is what I want, Mom. I'm just going to send you the link. So, you know what I'm saying? Black Friday, whatever. So I'm kind of rolling my eyes like, okay, whatever. In November came, and he came back and said, I take it back. Just forget everything I said. The only thing that I want for Christmas is personal development. And I was like, what? He's like, that's all I want. That's all I want for Christmas is personal development. And I'm like, okay. And I'm trying to navigate what to do, what to get him. Okay. What does that look like? And I asked him specifically, and he told me, he was like, you know, a trainer at the gym, or he wants to learn how to trade. And so he's been very interested in learning different trading strategies. And so I'm like, okay, so I'm trying to piece it together in my mind. So cut to, it's still November, and I am considering what he could be doing. And in my mind, I put together like this 6-month development program where we would literally pay him a salary because I know he needs income. His music program ended, and he was considering getting into another one that was going to start in a few months. So he has this window of time where he does have the time available. He does have a part-time job. So he would have to work around that, but you ain't got nothing but time, son. Okay, you ain't got nothing but time. You got no kids. You ain't got no wife. So you have nothing but time. So I'm like, this would be a perfect time to potentially put something like this together, because I would just pay him a salary, but I would want him working. Like, I'm in my mind, I'm like 30 hours a week working on your personal development, like close to a full-time job. And as I begin to think about it and the money that I would need to invest, right? And my husband and I are like, okay, we've already invested so much. We've invested in him doing some online classes, and we invested in the music program. We invested in getting him to Nashville, setting up his apartment. We invested in, you know, he now pays his own rent, but we were paying the rent, you know, we were doing all the things. And I'm just like, ugh, you know what I'm saying? I'm just the money and funyuns. The money and funyuns keep just headed on out, and you still, you know, gaming and chilling and chilling and gaming and gaming and chilling. So I'm like, I don't know. So then I started kind of getting in a funk about it. Like, I don't know if I want to do this. I don't know if I want to just keep pouring money into him if he's not mentally mature enough to appreciate what this opportunity could bring. And I just put a pause to it. And I hadn't talked to my husband officially about it yet, because he knows how much we've already invested in Zay. So he already knows what we've already invested in him. So I'm like, I just don't want to talk, because, you know, men are men with men. Okay. Men, daddies raising sons are always going to be like, listen, man, he need to man up. So I said, well, let me just think it through before I bring this to him, because I'm thinking he's probably not going to be a fan of this, of us just setting up this type of salary and all that. So I'm just really thinking it through. So this what happened, y'all. This what happened. True story. Okay. Never shared anywhere else. It was a Friday night. I prayed about it. And I am a good notes girl. Okay. Which is the iPad, where you can write in your iPad. I'm a good notes girl. And so I have my digital notebook, and I have like this folder in my digital notebook that literally says like, where I'm waiting on God to answer me about something. This one is serious business. This is like, God, I need to hear from you on this matter. And so I'm writing in this notebook how I feel. I'm pouring out my heart. I'm pouring out what I don't want to do. God, are you doing something in him where what you're doing is, you know, in the most perfect time that you're executing this, me heavily getting involved and trying to curate this experience for him? Would this hurt him, or would this help him? Right? That was really my question. And that's just kind of where my head was. And I just really wanted to hear from God about it, because I did not want to fumble this time that he had. And I did not want to coddle him when maybe he needed to not be coddled. Okay. For lack of better words. So I prayed about it, and the very next morning I see a reel, and it's just a family that is using the audio as their background, and the audio in the background is Myron Golden. And this is the very next morning, guys. The very next morning, maybe 9 a.m. the next morning. I prayed about it, let's say 10 p.m. the night before, wrote it in my journal about 11 p.m. And the very next morning at 9 a.m., I hear this audio about Myron Golden, and I'm going to read you some snippets of that audio. Hold on. Let me get it. So here's a snippet of what he said. Imagine a world Instead of kicking our children out when they're 18, they come to work with us in our family business. When they get married, we give them a house so they don't have a mortgage, and a family business so they don't have to find a job. Instead of just giving them money, we give them a mindset. We give them a skill set. We give them a tool set that they can perpetuate the family's wealth instead of decimating it. We want our children to leave when they're 18. You know why? Because we're Americans. But the Bible says a man shall leave his father and his mother and cleave unto his wife. Biblically, a person leaves home when they get married. The reason you have to put up with them is because you didn't train them up. If you train them up, you don't have to put up. So good. Imagine a world where your children don't have to start from scratch. Imagine if your parents would have set you up so you didn't have to start from scratch. Imagine how much further ahead you'd be. You may not come from a wealthy family, but a wealthy family should come from you. So that was one of the first things I saw the next morning. And I said to myself, okay. Now I didn't be like, okay, that's the word of the Lord, move forward. I just journaled it down like, okay, God, I think you cooking. Okay, I think, because that was very random for that to pop up in my feed. But as we know, as we always say, okay, the internet's, whoever's watching, you just never know. Okay, whatever. So I'm like, all right, well, that's cool. I filed that away and I feel like I'm getting a confirmation. And I thought that was so powerful and I thought it was so accurate and I agreed. And of course, so I just filed it away. Now, I'm getting ready. Anybody involved, a shout out to my peeps in my Thrive and Prosper community. I was getting ready to record some new content in my Thrive and Prosper community. And I'm a big proponent of words, as you heard me speak even at the beginning of this video. Death and life and the power of the tongue, kids saying they feel behind, the whole thing. I'm a very big proponent of that. And so I teach about it all the time, but in Thrive and Prosper, I wanted it to be an entire week of training. So because I wanted to be an entire week of training, I'm now researching and studying words on a deeper level, even more so than I had in the past. And I am in community with Manny Arango, who is now a pastor. He used to just be a Bible teacher online from what I knew, but he's now a pastor. He just opened up a new church. And I was just watching one of his courses because I knew he had a course on words. And I was like, how words are a seed. So I was like, oh, that would be powerful. I just want to watch that, maybe get more revelation, just take notes, just putting myself in student mode before I go into teacher mode. When I go to watch the course about words are seed, he has like other modules about how other things are a seed. Okay. And one of the modules were children are a seed. And I said, well, since I'm watching the one on words, I'm just going to watch the rest of these modules. They weren't long. They're like 7 to 10 minutes. So I'm just going to watch the rest of these modules. And I get to children are a seed. Mind you, we are still within 16 hours of my prayer. Do you hear me? 16 hours of my prayer, and listen to some of the things that Manny Arango said. So here are some snippets from the module that I watch on your children being a seed. It says, expensive is a subjective word. The cost is objective. I cannot just flat out say kids are expensive. That's a poverty mentality. Because when I watch King Richard, I see a man who didn't see his daughters as expensive. He saw Serena and Venus Williams as a seed, as an investment, as they had gifts inside of them that needed to be pulled out. He says, I don't see my son as a burden. I see my son as fruit. And inside the fruit is more seed. Okay. I know y'all probably not as getting as excited as I was. I'm going to read it one more time for you. Okay. For my people in the back. If you're not paying attention, right here, listen to this. He says, I don't see my son as a burden. I see my son as fruit. And inside the fruit is more seed. And he said, and it's my job to get the gunk out the way so that my son can get the seeds within himself and pull those gifts out so he can offer those to the world. I hope y'all are feeling how I was feeling. He says, I'm not living to eat. I'm not living for bread. I'm living to sow. Like, how can I sow more? And I've got to make sure my son knows how to steward the seeds that's inside the fruit that is his life. And I have to invest in him, and I have to invest in his gifts. The job of a visionary is to have a plan. I've got a plan for my kids. I've got a plan for my grandkids. I've got a plan for my grandkids. If you're going to break any kind of cycle of curse off of your family, then I pray that God gives you a generational perspective, not just to see you, but to see your children, your children's children, and your children's children's children as seeds that you must steward. So I was done. I said, okay, gotta hear you, because I'm not even here for this. I'm here to try to get some more revelation about words and teach words for a week. I'm not here for this. And this man is talking about the exact same thing that I prayed about. So I said, okay, God, I got you. So I feel like I'm hearing from you. I said, but now I need to have this conversation with my husband. Because if he doesn't agree, and this is what I said, if he doesn't agree, this whole idea will be shut down. And I was upstairs in our upstairs open loft kind of game room area, sitting on the couch because I was up there just working, watching the videos on my iPad. And he comes up, and as he comes up, I guess he could tell I was thinking about something or whatever. I can't even remember how it immediately came up, but because I was going to wait to talk to him, but he was like, well, what's going on? What's on your mind? And I was like, I was just watching this thing. So I just catch him up on what I was thinking of doing for Zay. And I didn't have it all mapped out yet. I knew I wanted it to be about 6 months, but that was it. We ended up mapping it out later, and I'm going to share what we mapped out in this same video. So I'm telling him, I said, I'm just curious what you would think about this. And I couldn't even get it out. He cuts me off. He says, I don't mean to cut you off. And I'm like, oh, here we go. Let's see what he's going to say. He says, but I love this. But I love this. And I was like, okay. So I knew then, okay, you got the green light. You wanted something from God. You feel like you have your confirmation from God. A husband, head of the house, stamp of approval. Don't even got to hear the rest of it. I love it. Let's do it. And it just the same thing that has been the consensus of now that it's, we've been doing it for a few months are people saying like, I wish somebody had done this for me. And that was what he said, like, man, I wish, I could have had something like this at his age. Like, this is incredible. And I said, okay. So I mapped out, took me a few days, but I mapped out what this could look like. 6-month development. It would include spiritual development. And so because I already teach spiritual development in my Thrive and Prosper community, it's already university style learning. So it's already week by week curriculum. We slow down everything. The very first few weeks is just teaching you how to even study the Bible, how to get the most out of the Bible, where you don't need a scholar or a pastor or whatever. So you have to wait to have these supernatural revelations of the word and have these encounters with just you and your Bible and studying. You don't have to wait for that. You can actually create them on your own. And I'm going to teach you how to study it that way. So I've already curated this experience. So all I need him to do is to get in here and learn, right? It already has quizzes. It already has tests. It already has those things. So I'm like, okay, I knew spiritual development, I can get him into Thrive and Prosper community. I have 90-day intervals. The first 90 days is called the Rooted Workroom. Second 90 days is called the Authority Lab, where we taking things up a notch, okay? And so I said, okay, I want to get him in the Rooted Workroom. And I knew that, okay? So that was like, check. In the Rooted Workroom, we have a Bible plan, so he'll be reading his Bible every day. So I knew all the spiritual things would be taken care of in that regard. Then I knew I wanted him to have, like financial conversations. Like he really had to have a revelation about money. And we have a coach in Thrive and Prosper that does finance and business, but I needed to add in just these like foundational things that I feel like young adults need to understand, like babies need to understand about money. And so put together some things for that. And then I also needed him to just have a revelation of task management, time management, just regular personal development. It was just all of these things that I just wanted to curate for him. And then I also wanted to make sure that we had check-ins. So we meet every single Friday and we review what he's done that week. We assign out what he has to do for the next week, which should be about 30 to 35 hours of work. And we audit what he did the previous week. Like, did you read your book? Because he always has to currently be reading a book. Did you read your book? And I quiz him on the chapters that he should have read. So, no notes, no nothing. Look me right in the eye on Zoom and can you answer these questions? So I quiz him on the book. Because let's say he has to read 3 chapters that week. I'll just quiz him on those chapters. And I just you can put it in ChatGPT, you can put it in Claude. You can say, can you give me a 10-question quiz for this book and these chapters in this book? And it can generate that because most books are just so popular, the ones that we're reading anyway. So we do that. I quiz him on the chapters of the books of the Bible that he would have read. I review his homework. That was from the Rooted Workroom. I review his homework. That was from the cultivation phase, which was Coach Tuka, Thrive and Prosper, does personal development. So I review his homework for her stuff. And then we talk about normal life things that are just heavy on his mind. It sometimes turn into counseling sessions, turns into church, turns into he isn't executed. And so let's talk about why not, you know what I mean? So it can turn into that sometimes as well. And we audit everything. We also discuss a skill set. So you want to make sure that if you're doing this as well, it includes some type of skill set. And so he wants to learn how to trade. So we're incorporating that. But I did not teach that right out the gate because of the fact I wanted him to get the basics, foundational principles of life before I start teaching you how to make more money. Like, let's make sure you know how to manage the money you already have. Because even when we got to the phase of talking about money management, he realized that he makes way more than he needs. But he was spending it in a way that he could not see that. He couldn't see the forest from the clouds. So we had to do a reset on that. I had him analyze his spending and he was disgusted. Okay. He was like, oh, I cannot believe I've been spending this much. So all of this happened so far, and we are 2.5 months in this 6-month development program and already had just beautiful revelations. And I would love to say that since we started it, he started here and every week just got better and better. And it was like straight to the top. And it just has not been that way. I was sharing this on social media. It's really like losing weight. You know how you lose weight? It's like if you're looking at a chart of a graph when you've lost weight over time, it's like you lost and then you gained half of a pound, but then you lost 2 pounds, you gained 1.7 of a pound, and then you lost. So it's like over time you were losing, but it didn't seem like that from week to week because you had some misses and some missteps along the way. Some people say you should just look at how much weight you lost over a course of a month. And a lot of times you still are in the deficit if you are truly focusing on losing weight. And I think that's how it's been for him. It's like some weeks it feels like, have we made any progress? Like, how could you show up and not da-da-da-da-da? But when I look back over where he was when he started and where he is now, you realize that he is just 10,000 steps ahead of where he started. So one thing, and I'll just point out a few things. One thing that I've learned just from dealing with my son is it's like, if it's a normal week for him, then he does great. Okay. Like his normal schedule, he can set up his routines, and he likes to have a certain routine with things. But if it's a week where his routine has been disrupted, it disrupts his productivity. And I can say that that's not how you can live life. Like, you still have to have a high level of productivity no matter what life brings your way. And so I think that's been something that he's learning, that you coming and saying, well, this happened. And I'm like, yeah, that's unacceptable. Like, I don't think he's expecting me to say that. I'm like, no, that it doesn't matter. It was 2 days this week I wasn't feeling well. Okay, well, what about the other days? How about we don't make the goal that we do the bulk of our work at the end of the week? So if something comes up, we're still good. Like, let's be more responsible. Let's move with the spirit of excellence, where maybe most of your work's done by Wednesday, Thursday. By the time we meet Friday, you're just putting the finishing touches on. Like, I'm always pushing him to do better no matter the circumstance. And I think because he knows me so much as mom, okay, and not the CEO of several companies, he's like, oh, this is a coach style mom that he's getting and that he requested. Okay, because this is what you asked for. This is personal development right here. But he's doing great. I said that to say he's doing great. And I will say this. He is currently in the DMV area with the one and only, the number one health motivator in the world, Rochelle T. Parks. He's currently with her for the month of February, and we should be getting final results here soon. We're at the end of February. So he's currently there for the month of February, where he's been transforming his health. So when he got there, he did fruit and veggie, raw, only fruits and vegetables. About 3 days in, Frazier went down. I mean, he was in bed. He was like, I have no energy. I hate salads. Get me out of here. I can't believe I signed myself up for this. He was pretty miserable. And he was down for about 2-3 days where he really wasn't eating anything. I think she said a few times she gave him like some crackers and some fruit or something like that. But like she ended up giving him crackers because he was just literally rebelling against the salad. He was like, I can't eat it. So that was the first week. And it was Super Bowl Sunday, that first after the 7 days. And she said, I went ahead and let him have a cooked meal. So he just had hot veggies and chicken, right? Like baked chicken and veggies. And did you know, this is after 3 days of raw, then another 3 days of barely eating anything, but maybe a few crackers and some fruit. And then she would give him some like electrolytes. So he did 3 days of that. Sunday, he doesn't eat anything. She lets him have one cooked meal of protein and veggies. And she tells him at the end of that meal, because this week has been kind of weird, little mishaps and everything, we're about to go another 4 days raw. And he was just like, he said, Mom, I was just so defeated. He was like, I was just like, oh my God, I just want cooked food. But she don't care. Anybody ever talked to Rochelle, knows her brand, go follow her on YouTube. She doesn't care. She doesn't care. And I'm just glad I wasn't there because I think I would have been like, let the boy eat, bro. Because they doing 2-a-days, y'all. They doing cardio in the morning, lifting weights. They come home for a little bit and they come back at the end of the night and do another 45 to an hour of cardio. So he is just depleting calories. So 2 weeks in, I'm glad I wasn't there. Okay. So she could be Coach Ro and Mama could be over here not watching. Okay. So I'm glad I wasn't there. So 2 weeks in, he was down 17 pounds, 2 weeks in. Anybody knows my son, he already has a small frame. But if whatever fat was on that body, honey, came off. And he still has some more that he wants to lose, a certain number he's looking forward to getting to. So I don't want to say it. So we can update that. I'll do an updated video on a future off the record, but he lost 17 and now we're in the 3rd week. I'm filming this headed into the 4th week of the month. So, and hopefully we can get this out pretty quick. So the next time I do a check-in, I can tell you how he did. So, but just very proud of him, and he's sticking with it. He's feeling a lot better. He's now eating cooked foods every day. Okay. So he actually did 2 more days of the raw. And then he just said, let's just do the 2-day water fast. Cause he said, I was just thinking about food constantly thinking about food. And he just wanted to kill that in his flesh. So he's like, let's just do 2 days of water fast. So he did about 10 days between a water fast and raw, and with one cooked meal in there on that Super Bowl Sunday. And then he went to being able to have cooked food, and they just been eating protein and veggies and keep it very clean. And he might have a little fruit, and he's looking great, getting stronger. And they're getting ready to test him on how fast he can do a mile running because she has him running now. So he's doing great. Personal development wise, he's doing great as well. I only gave him a few of our assignments because he's spending so much time on his health while he's out there. And those assignments they're not being completed. So we had a conversation about that because remember, I told you, if it's not his optimal schedule, he's like, and he told me, he's like, well, I was down. And I was like, yeah. And then the next week, and then, it's like, I'm not finna do your work. Do your work. It's not that difficult. It's unacceptable. So I'm standing on business. Okay. I'm standing on business with that. I want him to learn how to execute in every environment of life. You know what I'm saying? You have to keep your word to yourself and to this program. So that's the update. That has been a big part of my life lately. And I'll close out with this. When he got with Ro's daughter came to my house because she found out what I was doing with Zay. And she thought it was so powerful. She was like, this is amazing, Tiff. I even shared with her what shifted my perspective. I let her watch the videos I saw and just kind of brought her up to speed. And she was like, gosh, I think my daughter would love this. And her daughter's in her early 20s. So she's created her own program for her. She's running the same play I'm running. 6 months, paid salary, get in the portal. Her daughter's now in Thrive and Prosper. She's in the Rooted Workroom. She's in Tuka's personal development track. And so she put her in the same program and she's doing the same thing as well. And so she said, well, when Zay comes there, I would love to see Mikkel here. I said, I would love that as well. So since Mikkel has been here, we've been doing personal development, all the things, right? Personal, business, finance, diving deep into life with Mikkel. So we did a switcheroo. Well, when we did a switcheroo, that's what we were kind of sharing on our stories. I hadn't really shared anything on my social media about this. And when I tell you the response that I received was incredible, incredible, tons of DMs, tons of feedback. And I was like, okay. And my son had always been like, hey, we could share this, especially when he got with Ro, he was like, we can share this on social media. Anybody that's a OG fan, okay, knows we used to have Forever Haynes vlogs. So Zay's already used to kind of filming himself and shooting content and being comfortable on camera. So he was like, I'm good with it. So I said, okay, well, with his permission, I'll put a little reel together and just premiere it on Instagram, just as this is something we're doing for our son, and just kind of catch them up with the journey and then allowing them to be with us until the end of the 6 months. Well, that thing took off. Okay. That thing had some legs on it. And I think right now it's about 35,000 views on it. I'm not sure where it'll be by the time, I think it's dust is starting to settle on it. So it might be around that same view number by the time this comes out, but great response. And so it just is becoming a thing. And everybody in the comments is like, I would love more curriculum or this or that. And so we're trying to figure out exactly what that would be. The Thrive and Prosper community is a great place for the spiritual development, personal development. But there are some other elements to this thing that I've created that I would need to curate potentially and maybe put that into Thrive and Prosper as well. That would be just like a customized curriculum for young adults, because we are talking about, because it's a kingdom program, we are talking about purity. We are talking about how you should set your finances up before you make any financial decisions. The good thing about the young adults I've dealt with, they don't have they haven't bought a house, or if they're not financing a car, they don't have student loan debt just yet. And so it's like you have the opportunity to make better decisions because you haven't really made the life decisions that, I've made and my husband's made and all those kind of things. And so that's included as well. And just some other little things that's just it's very targeted towards young adults. So I'm working on that. And it'll probably be in the Thrive and Prosper community, but it has been an incredible journey. It reminds me so much of the God's Math brand, where it was so organic. Like God's Math was birthed out of someone requesting it. I speak on the power of partnerships, and I had the revelation of God's Math, and I taught it, and I just kept repeating. It disrupts. It breaks the rules. It's mind-boggling. It's supernatural. It disrupts. It breaks the rules. It's mind-boggling. It's supernatural. And then everybody was saying it back to me, and then I spoke it at millions, and they were stopping me doing it. Oh my God, guys. And it was just like it turned into a thing. And I feel like this is getting the same type of legs where it's turning into a thing, y'all. So I think it's only fair and only natural that I take organically what God is already seeming to bless and already show confirmation that this is something that he's all about. And I see what it's supposed to be. And so that's what's going on with me. It's been fun. And this is Tiff Off The Record. I'll see you in the next one.